In the year 44 BCE, a young man named Gaius Octavius received word that would change the course of history. He was 18 years old, studying in the Greek town of Apollonia, when a messenger arrived with news from Rome. Julius Caesar had been assassinated 15 days earlier. 23 knife wounds had ended the life of Rome's most powerful man. The murder had taken place in the Senate, at the hands of Brutus, Cassius, and others who called themselves liberators. Caesar's will named Octavius as his adopted son and heir. The boy was now entitled to Caesar's name, his fortune, and his legacy. Mark Antony, Caesar's most powerful general, had already seized control of the city and addressed the funeral crowds. Octavius made an immediate decision. Against the advice of his tutors, he would return to Rome. He would not wait for permission or for safety. He declared himself Caesar's son and prepared to claim what was his. Still in 44 BCE, Octavius arrived in Rome and walked through the Forum. The city was tense. Smoke rose in the distance. A statue of Julius Caesar had been defaced. He came with Marcus Agrippa, a trusted companion. The two young men moved quietly through the crowds. Octavius studied the mood of the city and calculated his next steps. Senator Cicero, one of Rome's most influential voices, encountered them near the Forum. He regarded Octavius with skepticism. To him, the young man was merely a boy attempting to claim a dangerous inheritance. Cicero warned that Rome destroyed those who were weak. Octavius replied with quiet confidence. He invited no sympathy and made no apologies. He stated clearly that he intended to take what belonged to him. Later in 44 BCE, Octavius entered the Senate for the first time since his return. Mark Antony stood at the center of power. He was a veteran general in his 40s, charismatic and physically imposing. He held Caesar's papers and controlled access to Caesar's fortune. Antony mocked Octavius publicly. He questioned the boy's authority and suggested that he had no real claim. He reminded the Senate that Caesar's veterans answered to him, not to an untested youth. Octavius responded without raising his voice. He stated that Caesar's veterans had loved Caesar himself, not his wealth. He claimed that being Caesar's son was authority enough. He demanded that Antony return what rightfully belonged to Caesar's heir. The confrontation ended without resolution. Antony dismissed him, but Cicero and others in the Senate had noticed something. The boy did not intimidate easily. He did not retreat. Octavius left the chamber having made his position clear. By 43 BCE, Octavius had begun to build his own army. He visited military camps and spoke directly to veterans who had served under Julius Caesar. He did not offer them gold. He offered them memory and loyalty. One centurion, a man who had fought in Gaul, recognized Octavius and recalled stories Julius Caesar had told. Octavius remembered those stories in detail. He knew the names of battles and the men who had fought them. The centurion knelt and pledged his allegiance. Others followed. Within months, Octavius commanded several legions. He had transformed himself from a boy with a name into a man with an army. Rome took notice. Antony could no longer dismiss him. The balance of power had begun to shift. Later in 43 BCE, Lepidus, a cautious politician and military commander, brought a proposal to Octavius. Mark Antony was willing to form an alliance. The three men would share power equally and hunt down the assassins of Julius Caesar. Agrippa suspected a trap. Octavius acknowledged the risk, but recognized the strategic necessity. Brutus and Cassius commanded 17 legions in the east. Fighting them while also fighting Antony would be impossible. Octavius agreed to meet Antony. He understood that alliances were temporary. Enemies could serve useful purposes until circumstances change. Still in 43 BCE, the three men met on a small island in a river. No guards were present. Octavius, Antony, and Lepidus stood face to face. Antony proposed dividing control of Rome among the three of them. Octavius accepted, but added one condition. They would execute all of Caesar's assassins and their supporters. This included members of the Senate. Lepidus hesitated at the scale of the bloodshed. Octavius remained firm. He stated that Caesar's blood required an answer. Antony, impressed by the young man's ruthlessness, agreed. The second triumvirate was formed. Rome would now be ruled by 3 men. But the partnership was built on pragmatism, not trust. By 42 BCE, the triumvirate's forces confronted Brutus and Cassius at Philippi in Greece. The battle lasted for weeks. Octavius commanded troops despite suffering from illness. He was often pale and weak but refused to withdraw. News arrived that both Brutus and Cassius were dead. Their legions had surrendered. The last of Julius Caesar's assassins had been eliminated. The Republic's defenders had been defeated. Antony rode through the camp in triumph. He was covered in blood and exhilarated by victory. He spoke of drinking and dividing the world. Octavius, still feverish, watched him carefully. He predicted that Antony would go east to Egypt. He knew Antony could not resist excess, and he understood that excess would eventually become a weakness. By 37 BCE, reports reached Rome from Alexandria. Mark Antony had married Cleopatra in Egyptian rites. He already had a Roman wife, Octavia, who was Octavius's own sister. The insult was public and deliberate. Antony had also proclaimed Caesarion, Cleopatra's son, as Julius Caesar's true heir. He granted Roman territories to Cleopatra's children. He was giving away pieces of Rome to a foreign queen. Maecenas, one of Octavius's advisors, reported that the Senate was outraged. They waited for Octavius to respond. Octavius considered the situation carefully. He concluded that Antony had mistaken passion for strength. He had forgotten Rome. Octavius decided to remind him. Later in 37 BCE, Octavius addressed the Senate. He did not condemn Antony directly as a traitor. Instead, he framed the conflict as a defense of Rome against foreign threats. He argued that Antony had abandoned Roman values. He served a foreign queen. He elevated Egyptian gods over Roman tradition. He named non-Romans as heirs to Roman lands. Octavius proposed that Rome declare war not on Antony, but on Cleopatra and Egypt. If Antony chose to fight for her, that would reveal where his true loyalty lay. Rome would remember his choice. The Senate agreed. The declaration was made. Antony would be forced to choose between Rome and Egypt. Octavius had maneuvered him into an impossible position. By 31 BCE, the fleets of Octavius and Antony met off the coast of Actium in Greece. Agrippa commanded Octavius's naval forces. Octavius watched from shore as the battle unfolded. Antony's fleet was larger but poorly coordinated. During the engagement, Cleopatra's ship suddenly turned and fled south. Antony abandoned his own fleet and followed her. His men were left behind. The remaining ships surrendered. The battle was over within hours. Antony had chosen Cleopatra over his soldiers. His reputation was destroyed. Octavius ordered his forces to pursue them to Egypt. The war was nearly finished. By 30 BCE, Octavius arrived in Alexandria. The city had already fallen. A servant informed him that both Antony and Cleopatra were dead. Antony had fallen on his sword. Cleopatra had taken poison. Octavius was led to Cleopatra's body. She lay on a golden couch, regal even in death. He studied her for a moment. He acknowledged her beauty but understood her danger. She had made Antony believe he could be more than Roman. That belief had destroyed him. Octavius ordered that Antony be given a soldier's funeral with honors. Cleopatra would be left to Egypt. He did not celebrate. He simply moved forward. Rome now had only one ruler. By 27 BCE, Octavius stood before the Senate once more. Rome had been at peace for 3 years. Civil war had ended. Octavius addressed the gathered senators. He announced that he was laying down his extraordinary powers. He would return control of the provinces to the Senate. The Republic, he said, was being restored to them. The Senate did not accept. Senator Munatius Plancus rose and insisted that Octavius remain in power. Octavius agreed to stay, as though he had no choice. The Senate granted him a new title, Augustus, meaning the revered one. Later in 27 BCE, Augustus sat alone in a small, unadorned room, turning Julius Caesar's signet ring slowly in his fingers while the city outside celebrated his new title. Agrippa entered and spoke of the people, calling him Father of the Nation. Augustus replied that they had once called Caesar a king, and then they had killed him. He said he had learned from that mistake. At dawn in 27 BCE, Augustus walked Rome's streets in a simple cloak, unrecognized. The city woke around him, shopkeepers opening doors, children playing, soldiers patrolling peacefully. At the Forum, he watched workmen repair the Senate steps. One greeted him as an ordinary citizen, remarking it was a good day with no wars or riots. Augustus said nothing. The city moved on, alive and indifferent. He had created this peace alone. He turned toward the palace, walking unseen. The most powerful man in the world, carrying the weight of both republic and empire.